If you think about legal as your launchpad and you get your legal foundation correct, building the right legal foundation for your new franchise system, ensuring that your franchise offering aligns with how your business operates, protecting your business, protecting yourself from liability as you sell franchises, and trust your business to individuals that are going to be entering your world as franchisees. If you set that legal foundation right out of the gate, you're going to set yourself up for success. Make smart, strategic decisions based on good information, and so you can adapt along the way. While franchising your business, it's a major milestone. It's not the goal, it's not the ultimate destination, which is to grow your brand, create enterprise value. And when you're thinking about franchising your business and you're going through the franchising process itself, it's critical that you understand that franchising, it's a legal process. And becoming a franchisor, an important mindset is to understand that legal, it should be your launch pad into the franchise world. Too many new franchisors, they enter the franchise world and they burn capital and time. And why is that? Because they don't put the right legal foundation in place. They work with a developer, consultant, or advisor or middleman that's selling them on packages of services, packages of documents, making all of these promises that are just such an early stage for you to properly evaluate as you enter the franchise world. If you think about legal as your launchpad and you get your legal foundation correct, building the right legal foundation for your new franchise system, ensuring that your franchise offering aligns with how your business operates, protecting your business, protecting yourself from liability as you sell franchises, and trust your business to individuals that are going to be entering your world as franchisees. If you set that legal foundation right out of the gate, you're going to set yourself up for success. And in this video, I'm going to discuss why franchising your business itself, it's not the finish line, and why it's a legal starting point. The goal is to create a thriving business, a thriving franchise system. And something I always obsess over is, why does one business owner enter the franchise world and succeed and another one get stuck or stalled? And many times it's mindset and how they approach the franchise industry, where they invest their capital, and how they become a franchisor. So the point in this video is our recommendation and belief that you should look at legal as your launch. Why? Because this is not a short-term game. This is long-term. We want to become a franchisor. And then as you become a franchisor, make smart strategic decisions based on good information and so you can adapt along the way. The concern I have is too many new franchisors, they buy all these packages of documents from these developers and consultants, and it ends up in a generic franchise offering. It ends up with the wrong legal foundation, and everything gets out of order. So let's go through some fundamentals. Number one is that franchising your business, it's a legal process. No one can tell you otherwise. Your FDD, your franchise agreement, setting up your franchise company, protecting your trademarks, these are all legal assets that need to be developed by a franchise lawyer and legally protected. Too many developers out there, they're playing in this gray space of, hey, I'll recommend a lawyer, or we can have a lawyer review this, or I know legal. Let's get our legal foundation right. There's franchise regulations, federal franchise rules, state regulations, registration obligations. A good franchise law firm, a good franchise team, well, they're going to get that in order for you. And as we develop your FDD, as we develop your franchise offering, what are some of the fundamentals we're going to be focused on? Number one is understanding your business. But two is we're going to develop your franchise disclosure document. And that's going to create so many conversations and so many processes where we're discussing and working with you and about your business, your brand positioning, what's your estimated investment. All of these items our team's going to be reviewing and going over with you. And that process itself is going to shed so much light and knowledge for you about the franchise world itself and how we're going to be setting up your franchise offering, which gets into the world of franchise KPIs. Many times I'll have conversations and a business owner will say, well, this developer or consultant said only they can, and they're going to produce a report and they're going to evaluate a study and they're going to provide that information to me, and as if they have some special knowledge. Well, the reality is when we're developing an FDD, a legal process, some of the core KPIs, the franchising KPIs we're going to evaluate and we're going to be discussing are what is your initial franchise fee? How do we, what are the royalty rates, territory structures, even item 19 financial performance representations? And let's discuss each of those because as we discuss the legal components, you're going to get so many insights into how the franchise world operates. The initial franchise fee itself, that's really the entrance fee. When someone signs a franchise agreement, you approve them as a franchisee, they're going to pay that initial franchise fee. And what is that initial franchise fee designed to compensate you for? One, it's that initial license to allow them to become a franchisee. Two, it's designed to help you cover the costs you're going to incur as you onboard and train that new franchisee, and also to help you defray some of your franchise sales costs, right? Maybe this franchisee came about from marketing or through a broker relationship. So the initial franchise fee, it's really not a profit center. It's to help you absorb or defray costs associated with franchise sales, onboarding franchisees. When we're setting franchise fees, what are we looking at and evaluating? Well, as a franchise law firm, we represent over 300 franchisors. So we have insights into every industry and all types of businesses. But the reality is there's market factors in place, right? So the franchise fees is going to be determined, and things we focus on is we're structuring franchise fees for our clients. What industry are we operating in? What type of opportunity are we affording franchisees? Is it income replacement, legacy building, or is this a supplemental income business? What does competition in the franchise marketplace look like? So, for example, if you're a home service-based business, are franchise sales in your industry occurring through brokers? And if so, since we know brokers are compensated through the initial franchise fee and they receive a percentage of it, what is your competition charging as a fee? So as much as there's so many insights that go into the initial franchise fee, but there's caps. And we're going to be guided by industry, right? What's the competition doing? Are we positioning our brand at a premium level? What is the overall marketplace support? And many times there's small ranges of variation that we could implement on your initial franchise fee itself. There's other strategies too, multi-unit development, but these are all things that are going to come up in the legal process as we're developing the FDD itself. Same thing with royalties. Now, royalties, that's the lifeblood of every new franchise system and every franchise system, right? As a franchisor, your primary revenue stream is going to come from those ongoing royalties that are paid to you by franchisees. The most typical royalty structure is a percentage-based royalty. So, for example, restaurants, brick and mortar retail businesses where franchisees are spending good amounts of money to open up the business, they're traditionally percentage-based royalties. So, for example, in the restaurant industry, anywhere between 5 and 6% of gross sales is a typical royalty. But there's variations. Again, they're based on industry and based on competition. Also, when we evaluate different industries, so for example, restaurants are typically percentage-based royalties, whereas home service-based businesses or lower startup cost businesses, they're typically many times a hybrid structure where franchisees are going to pay you the greater of a percentage of their royalty or a minimum monthly royalty fee. And why do we do that for lower cost service type businesses? Because many times these lower cost businesses, if the franchisees are not operating, if they're not motivated, they're not going to be generating sales, which is going to impact us as a franchisor. And so again, we implement some protections in the place of minimum royalties. The point, as we're developing this legally, we're assessing the marketplace as to what the competition is doing, what your industry supports. And then most important, how do we implement these structures legally into the disclosures of your FDD and the legal underpinnings of your franchise agreement itself? Another important KPI is territories and territory-based structures, which for many clients that come to us where we're rebooting their franchise system, we see so many issues that franchise developers and consultants create with territory structures. Why? Because many times they're just applying a cookie cutter approach. A territory, it's a form of protection you're going to be granting to franchisees where we agree we're not going to authorize another franchisee to either open a location or provide services. So typically for a restaurant, Franchisees will be granted a radius of protection around the restaurant. For service-based businesses, there'll be service territories. But again, here too, as we develop your structure legally, we're going to be discussing exclusions and other protections you need to put in place, sort of like reserved areas, captive market accounts. For example, if your restaurant territory includes a captive market like an airport or some other venue, maybe we carve that out. But the key is these carve outs, how we structure territories, they're all legally derived and they're going to be drafted into your FDD and your franchise agreement. And as to what makes sense, well, like anyone else, we're going to review territory structures with you, map them out, and share with you best practices that we see legally through all of our clients. And the same applies with other important KPIs, like your item 19 financial performance representations. When we develop that in your FDD, we're baselining what information is the competition presenting. So if you're in a retail business, franchise buyers typically want to see, well, what's your gross sales, your cost of goods sold, your gross profit, and other important factors like rent. If you're a restaurant, franchisees want to see what's food cost and labor cost, what's rent, and some other factors. If you're service business, right, there's a different, what is technician cost? What are service vehicles? These are all things we reviewed during the process itself as we put together the legal framework for your FDD. The point is, don't let consultants and developers take you off track with promising all these studies and all these other items that really distract you from the legal or relegate legal where you don't get it the right way. Which gets to how they go about the franchise sales process itself. Packages, right? So a lot of times we'll see developers say, we franchise your business, cover everything from A to Z. We provide you with a complete package of everything. And it's so enticing. Everyone wants to hear everything's covered. There's this great package, everything from legal, operations manual, studies, marketing, even franchise sales. I promise we'll do franchise sales for you. The problem is that, again, it's putting the cart before the horse. When we're buying a bunch of services that end up being generic, we're not getting the right legal foundation. And then you enter the franchise world with the wrong expectations and you've blown capital or burned capital and time. And I bring it up because we see it so often. When you put the legal process first, we enter the franchise world. We have our FDD, which is a legal document. It's structured the right way. Now these consultants, advisors, third parties, they can't sell you on what you don't know already. You know what the process is. You're already a franchisor. Now, if someone wants to sell us legal or marketing services or other things, we can make strategic decisions and choose the best vendor for you, right? Try to avoid the packages and then also understand that many times, who are the players in the franchise world when you're franchising your business? Well, you have franchise lawyers and you have these developer consultants, right? If you're working with a franchise law firm, a franchise lawyer who's experienced, who's worked with other franchisors, who's seen the ups and downs of different growth cycles when a franchisor starts off, as they grow, the deals that create issues, where franchisee liability issues that may arise, how to avoid them. It's a more holistic view on the franchise journey itself. Whereas consultants, there's no specific accreditation for them. Anyone could call themselves a franchise consultant or a franchise developer. When you go to their websites, you're going to see sometimes so many team members. And what you may not realize is a lot of the team members they're listing on their websites, they're all independent contractors. They have their own businesses on the side, or they work for other companies. They'll even list lawyers on their website, even though these lawyers have no affiliation, just that they're referral partners. And many times these consultants and developers, these advisors, they're paying referral fees. Or if a broker refers you to them, they're paying the broker referral fee. So understand the team that you're working with. I'm not saying there's not good consultants and advisors out there. There are. But don't bundle up the process where they're conflating legal with everything else. And then you end up overpaying for everything and getting something that's generic and also leaves you legally exposed without the right foundation, which gets to a very tempting sales myth I hear often. Clients will come to me and say, They weren't our client when they franchised their business, but they'll say, Charles, I'm 2 years into this journey. I did everything they said to do. They said they'd have their salespeople sell franchises for me. They said their company or their marketing company was going to do the PR. They were going to create leads on Facebook. All I had to do was work the leads or have their team work the leads. But I've spent a ton of money and we haven't closed good deals or haven't closed any deals. The point is, franchise sales are hard. And as a new franchisor, what's going to sell franchises down the line is validation from cities who, attest to how good your system is and show they've replicated your business model. But you're not going to have that as a new franchisor. And so you want to really lean in on the organic reach of your brand, right? Your customers, your social media influence, friends and family, leaning in on your brand story and understanding that even if you become a franchise in 90 to 120 days, spend the next 12 months seasoning your franchise offering. Learning franchising, attending some conferences. Let's make smart decisions on where to spend some marketing dollars or your franchise sales website. Start evaluating leads that come through organically, people that know you, know your brand, and then learn the process, which we teach about lead qualification. And then we could slowly escalate your growth cycle. So when you think about franchising your business, if you adopt a legal first strategy, number one, it is a legal process and you need to get it correct. But two is when you do that, you're putting yourself in the driver's seat. You're cost effectively entering the franchise world. You're now able to make smart decisions. You have a relationship with a franchise attorney, a franchise team that's legally obligated to you, ethically obligated to you. They're your attorneys. They should be sharing amazing insights with you through their other clients and experiences in the franchise world. They can even, in an unbiased way, right? Lawyers are very different from consultants, share with you insights as to vendors and suppliers that they're confident in and that they believe are reputable for you to work with. And you can make smart decisions as you enter the franchise world. The key, let's not blow out capital budgets. Let's not waste time. And let's not leave you legally exposed, right? Because when you franchise your business, it's just the start of the journey. And it could be an amazing journey. We just want to get it right and then make the right strategic decisions as you go over the next 5 years, as you go from new franchisor to seasoning your franchise offering and accelerating growth. And if you're interested in franchising or you want to have a conversation with our team, always feel free to reach out.